Hi and welcome back to the channel. So today what I want to talk about is certainly as far as the UK is concerned, this is a new release. I think it was shipping here on Friday for the first 2 days ago, and as you can see here, John Lee Hooker, The Healer, an absolute classic album from 1989. Now, back in 1989, I was working in the hi-fi, I still am working in the hi-fi industry, but I was working for Celestion, the British loudspeaker manufacturer. And I've mentioned this before with things like Eric Clapton Unplugged and the Eagles' Hell Freezes Over. There are certain records that just got played and played and played at hi-fi shows and stores in demos because they just sounded so damn good. And this is without a doubt one of them. Now, I played it over the decades so many times on CD. I've never had a vinyl issue of it. Back at the time of release, it was launched on vinyl, and but as I say, early 90s wasn't really vinyl's finest hour, so to speak. And so it wasn't really a consideration then. Certainly, at Celestion at the time, we were only really using CD as our source back in the late 80s, early 90s. But anyway, yeah. So I'd seen this, I think, on one of Chad's videos, and I think he'd mentioned it. Someone had mentioned it. I'd seen on Tinternet that Craft Recordings was doing this. I've got a couple of other Craft records, but although, to be perfectly honest, I haven't actually got around to opening them yet. But this one, bought this morning, even though it's a Sunday morning, my local record shop was open. Bought it home, cleaned it, got it on the turntable, and spent the next 40 minutes or so in absolute bliss. So cut to the chase. This is stunning. Cost me £33, I think, which is, now £33 is a lot for a normal LP. But a normal LP, this is not. Because if we look here, Craft Recordings, okay. I'll talk a bit about the performance of the record in itself, but here we go. Look, lacquers originally cut by Bernie Grundman and pressed on 180 gram vinyl at QRP. So, looking at the matrix numbers, looking at Discogs, I can basically work out that this. Looking at Discogs, you'll find out anyway that if you didn't already know, this was released on Classic Records back in 2008, and I assume it was Bernie Grundman that cut the lacquers then, and did an exceptionally fine job of it. So I think this is clearly pressed at QRP from those Bernie Grundman. The metalwork from that 2008 Bernie Grundman cut. I assume purely by looking in the run-out grooves, and if I get to this, here we are. Look, opening it up, you've got a QRP in a sleeve, just as you would get on a 100 to 200 pound UHQR. Craft Recordings, lovely label. And here in the run-out groove, we've got BG's initials and RTH 2018A. Now that's the matrix number of the 2008 Classic Records, and on the other side, BG RTH 2018B. So yeah, it looks to me like this is the same metalwork used to make a new pressing on the Craft label, but at QRP. So if we think about the Miles Davis Kind of Blue, which has just been released, which is exceptional on on the Analog Productions label with Clarity Vinyl and all. I mean, this, Clarity Vinyl aside, and it's a different label, but everything else about this is exactly the same. So, yeah, £30. It's quite a lot for a normal record, but actually, this has got far, far, far more in common with the the sort of $125, was it $150 Miles Davis Kind of Blue. Okay, that comes in a big fancy box, but ultimately this is the bit that really matters. And it's beautiful. It's perfectly flat. It sounds amazing. I have, to be honest, got a tiny little bit of surface noise on the last track, but I think that's probably just down to cleaning. I shall give it another clean, and I've no doubt that will clean up better. But it's, even with it doesn't bother me in the slightest. It is just exceptional. So, I mean, for those who don't know this, it's it's an amazing album. It's John Lee Hooker with special guests. And if we just go through the tracks here, The Healer. I mean, that's, it's the first track on the album. It's the one I know the best and remember the best. And it is just, it's stunning. It's John Lee Hooker with Carlos Santana and his band. So, I mean, you've just, I mean, the sound of the groove, the bass and the drums, that sort of Santana, very Latin-y, bluesy kind of groove to the music. And Carlos Santana's guitar licks just lay over that exquisitely. John Lee Hooker's kind of vocals, the drums, the tom-toms, congas, unbelievable. It just sounds unbelievable. And I just found myself turning the volume up and up and up. Then we get on to track 2. I'm in the Mood, Johnny Hooker and Bonnie Raitt. Yeah, just beautiful, slow, lazy, bluesy groove. Achingly beautiful. The album is dripping in reverb and ambience. It's warm, it's solid, it's transparent. You can feel the weight of the bass. It's got texture. Not particularly on that track actually, because it's there's sort of multiple guitars, but the next track, Baby Lee, John Lee Hooker and Robert Cray. And again, when Robert Cray's guitar comes, it's so. It just sounds, it's so there. And like I've said about the very best recordings, it's not so much they're in your room, it's you're in their room. You're absolutely transported into the space. Cutting out John Lee Hooker and Canned Heat, the way, just the real kind of swagger and groove of the band, and then the harmonica and the drums, everything. It's just absolutely mixed beautifully, and it's absolutely mastered beautifully. So it sounds just stunningly natural, hugely dynamic, and the sort of the foreground elements, the guitars and voices are they're kind of like laser etched in space, but that gives the wrong impression in a way, because there's nothing hard or sterile or cold about them, which laser etched might imply. It's just really, really amazingly beautiful sound and phenomenally good music. It just puts you in a good mood. Flip it over. I mean, you've Los Lobos. Think twice before you go. Last track, side 1. Flip it over. Sally Mae, John Lee Hooker and George Thorogood. That's All Right, John Lee Hooker and Charlie Musselwhite. It's that harmonica from Canned Heat, I believe. I don't actually have any Canned Heat, to be perfectly honest. Don't think. Actually, I might have. And then you get into 3 solo songs: Rocking Chair, My Dream, and No Substitute. And well, My Dream's got some bass and drums on it too. And again, I mean, that, you know, let's talk about My Dream. It's the bass has got such timbre and texture and just body to it, and it fills the space. So you really feel the extremities of the you know, the studio, the space they're in, and the drums kind of, you know, there's a sort of a sharp echo off of the walls of the studio, if you like. That's again, it all just defines the space, but it's not a cold space. It's just warm and rich and full of that bass. But at no point does it get muddy or confused. That's the same all the way through. The layering, every layer is kept remarkably intact. They interact with each other and relate to each other, but they don't at any point, nothing swamps anything else out. So yeah, in My Dream, you've kind of got this space filled with the warmth of the bass and the texture and the, you know, beautiful kind of slow, lazy groove. And then John Lee Hooker's vocal and guitar just it doesn't hang there in space like it's like ethereal, like a ghost. It's kind of planted in space. It's got body. It's got soul and weight to it. And then No Substitute, the final song, just vocal and 12-string guitar, and, you know, sort of foot taps, hand taps on guitars, I suppose. Just stunning. So, I mean, that was it's just one of those times you buy a record and you buy it, you get it home, you put it on the record player, and it from absolute first listen, it just grabs you from the second the stylus lands in the leading groove of side 1 to when you lift it from the run out groove of side 2. Just utterly entrancing, captivating, cosseting, comforting kind of just heady, beautiful stuff. It's got, I mean, it's got to be one of the best sounding records. Excuse me, quick swig of coffee. It's got to be one of the best sounding records out. It's you know, so for 30 odd quid, and it's like, you know, 30 odd year old album, and frankly, I've known it and played it regularly over the years, and it's, you know, if I paid £100 for this sound quality, this is, you know, I wouldn't consider it a rip-off. You know, the cover's reasonably plain, to be honest. There's nothing wrong with it. So you get these nice QRP archival inner sleeves. It's a beautiful flat piece of vinyl. It sounds incredible. You know, I think this is clearly going to be, I would suggest, as good as the classic records. I personally think that QRP have the edge over any other pressing plant, in my opinion. It's a full-on audiophile release, really. It's you know, it's pressed at QRP. The lacquers were cut by Bernie Grundman, I presume for Classic Records, who back in the day were, you know, as good as it gets in terms of audiophile reissues. I like the fact it's 33 RPM. They did do I see Classic did a four single-sided 45 RPM version of it. I only ever had one of those, and I frankly, I sold it. It did sound good, but it's just too much of a pain in the arse to keep jumping up and down and changing sides, really. It's amazing. It's incredible value for money. Buying, to get a record of this quality for this sort of money is a steal. So I really think that's probably all we need to say. John Lee Hooker, the Healer, Craft Records 2022 issue, pressed at QRP, cut by Bernie Grundman. A classic album, classic performance, classic recording. Originally on Classic Records, and this is I would suggest, as good as reissue of that. Maybe even better than. I don't have the Classic Records, so I can't compare, but I see absolutely no reason why this wouldn't be as good or better. I'm not sure where Classic were pressed, to be honest, at the time. But there we go. Anyway, phenomenal. If you can find one, buy it, I would suggest. And it's going to go in my collection. I know it's going to be a very, very frequently played record. It's one of those records perfect. So on that note, I shall say thank you all very, very, very much for watching. Thanks to all my new subscribers. If you haven't subscribed, please do. And if you like the video, please click the thumbs up button. And I will look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you. Cheers. Bye-bye now. Bye.